All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our candidates being here as well. My name is Emily Milan, and I don't know why I'm nervous because I'm just the chair of Voter Information Committee, so I have the easy job tonight. The heavy lifting will be done by our three candidates and our fantastic moderator from the League of Women Voters of the Cape Cod area, Mary O'Connor. Thank you, Mary. Really quick housekeeping. If you can make sure that your phones are off or on silent, we just don't want the interruption or the distraction of those ringing, chirping, tweeting sounds. Thank you. All right, so for the record, this event is live. So we are live on Channel 18. We're also being recorded, and it will be rebroadcast on Channel 18, and it will be on the Channel 18 YouTube page. So share it with your friends, let them know that it's here, and they have ample opportunity to watch it before the election. The election is scheduled for Tuesday, May the 17th, and the polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. at the Harwich Community Center, which is located at 100 Oak Street. There is no early voting, but absentee voting is an option, and I've printed out some absentee applications. If anyone is interested, those are on the table. You can fill those out in person. You can drop it in the mail. All of the instructions are there and ready for you. So I'm going to step out of the way and turn it over to Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Emily. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Welcome. We have all the candidates for the office of town clerk. They are Janelle Brown, Shayla Delaney, and Emily Mitchell. I'm going to start off by reviewing some procedures for the event which each of the candidates received ahead of time. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes for a closing statement, and 2 minutes to answer each question. Opening and closing statements will be done in the following order, determined by last name. Opening A to Z and the reverse for closing. The timekeeper, Tricia, is here with a countdown clock and is visible to me and to the candidates. So if you can't see it, don't worry, we can. When there is a half-minute left on a candidate's speaking time, the timekeeper will hold up a card that says 30 seconds, indicating there are 30 seconds to finish answering. The candidate will wrap up by finishing her sentence when she sees the stop card. If she continues speaking beyond a sentence after the stop card is held up, I will say thank you and move on to the next speaker. There is no rebuttal, but candidates may use any time remaining when they answer a question to respond to a previous comment made by any of the other candidates. Questions have been prepared in advance by the Voter Information Committee and are also being gathered from you, tonight's audience. The first responder to each question has been chosen via a random generated grid used by the League of Women Voters for 3 candidates. I will announce the order before each question. This forum is being produced live and recorded, and it will be broadcast on Channel 18 and YouTube at later dates. Personal references about other candidates are out of order. Now, ground rules for us all. Please turn off your phones and your watches. I thought my watch was off. If Emily had not reminded me, mine would have been on. If anyone does call while we're here, please tell them I'm not available for the phone call. Please treat all candidates fairly. Please remain quiet throughout the forum. No clapping or cheering or calling out. This is not a graduation ceremony where they say that and then they let you do it anyway. Right? If you keep clapping and interacting, we will be asking fewer questions, and the question you submitted might not get asked. So hold the applause until after the closing statements. No campaign literature or signs are allowed inside this room. So please submit questions, if you have not already, on the provided index cards. They must be addressed to all candidates and must apply to issues for qualifications for town clerk. Raise your hand if you would like another index card or to have your question collected at any point during the forum. Designees from the Voter Information Committee will review the questions for legibility. I need them to do that. Clarity and applicability to all candidates. I will pose as many questions as time allows. We will stop the question and answer portion at approximately 6:40 p.m. to give them time to do their closing statements and have us wrap up. We might combine some questions. So you might hear a question similar to yours, but not exactly yours, but it's because we've got several and we've combined them so that we cover a variety of topics within our time constraints. Are there any questions about the rules? Everybody's phone is off and watch is not beeping? Okay, let's get started. Candidates, you now have 2 minutes each for your opening statement. As I said earlier, Janelle Brown will begin, followed by Shayla Delaney and Emily Mitchell. Janelle.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Janelle Brown. I served as a member of the Board of Selectmen in Harwich from 2015 to 2018. I am a 14th generation Harwich native, and I attended Harwich High School. I went off to UMass Amherst, and I graduated with a pre-medical degree there. And shortly after college, I came back home again because my mother passed away. So I never got to go to medical school. I helped raise my younger siblings, and the last of whom graduated from Harwich High School in 2004. So I've been here full-time since 1995. I am a small business owner, 27 years. I have been a business owner, during which time I have managed up to 20 staff members and overseen the business operations. I do everything from cleaning to bookkeeping to my tax returns, you name it. I'm very well versed in small business operations. During my tenure as on the Board of Selectmen, I worked closely with our former town clerk, Anita Doucette, and I also served as liaison to about 2/3 of our committees. I'm very familiar with the position of town clerk, and I believe that it is a perfect match for my skill set. I look forward to answering any of your questions tonight, and even beyond, I will give you my email and my phone number should you have more questions beyond tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And now Shayla.
Good evening. I really want to thank the Voter Information Committee, the League of Women Voters, these fine ladies, and all of you dedicated voters. How many of you know the importance of the date August 18th, 1920? When the 19th Amendment was passed and women were given the right to vote. And here you have tonight 3 strong women candidates. This is a lot for 102 years later, I think. Today I drove up to Wellfleet to meet with the clerk there because I've been getting in touch with clerks around Eastern Massachusetts to widen my understanding of how clerks' offices operate, some differently than ours. I moved to Harwich 36 years ago, and the trip up to Wellfleet today reminded me of how much I just love Cape Cod. The beauty is unbelievable. The sun was out, and I thought, this is a fragile environment, but we have some hardy people here. And that's what I like to feel that I bring to this coming position. I moved to the Cape, and then I was able to go to law school, practice law, have a mediation business of my own, manage a local business as well as that, and prepare and file taxes. So there's quite a variety that came with that 36 years. My parents moved down here to follow us, and as they aged, I moved in with them to help take care of them, and what I thought was going to be 3 years turned into 10. And anyway, I now live in the same house with my daughter, grandkids, my son-in-law, and 2 dogs. It's a little crazy, but that is our multi-generational home. I bring a lot to this position, and would like to answer your questions about it.
Thank you. And Emily.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Emily Mitchell. I'm very excited to be one of your candidates for town clerk. I do also want to extend a thank you to the Voter Information Committee for hosting, the League for moderating, Channel 18 for broadcasting to those at home, and of course to my fellow candidates up here, and you for viewing. A little bit about myself. I am born and raised in Harwich. I graduated from Harwich High School in 2011 and went on to complete my bachelor's degree at Providence College before coming back home. And in my lifetime here in Harwich, I have always known local government to be a tremendous source of good. I have personally benefited from strong public schools, robust community programs, strong public safety, and the opportunity in my adult life to contribute professionally to my community. And I trace my passion for local government back to those strong schools. As I'm sure many in this room are familiar, I was one of Mr. Houston's high school students attending town meeting in my junior and senior years. And that experience of watching residents vote directly on the most pressing issues facing our town really inspired a passion and an energy that has stayed with me ever since. In my professional career, I've been consistently drawn towards municipal service. I started selling beach stickers. I went on to spend a couple years behind the community center front desk, and I've been serving as your current Council on Aging director for the last 4 years. And over that time, and especially in my current role as a department manager, I've developed skills that I think will translate seamlessly to the role of town clerk. Things like managing personnel and volunteers, developing and administering budgets, organizing community services and programs. And so those are the skills and that passion that I hope to bring towards this position. So thank you again, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. So now we move on to the question and answer period. And the answer order for this question is Emily Mitchell, Shayla Delaney, and Janelle Brown. And the question is, can you tell us how your education and experience make you qualified to be town clerk? Emily.
Sure. So I think, again, I do have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I did complete a year of law school at Cornell before actually coming back to take this position as Council on Aging director. So I do have some legal background, though not a completed degree. But I think my current role as a department manager really translates well to this town clerk position. For those of you who don't know, the Council on Aging is a pretty robust organization. We oversee a wide variety of services and programs designed to serve this community. So I have experience developing those programs, reaching out to the community, making sure those programs are accessible to the community, and particular over the course of the last 2 years, experience overhauling programs and services in response to changing community needs, changing regulations and public health trends, and making sure that we're still serving the community. And I think that translates well to the town clerk's role. The clerk can't stop, even in a pandemic. Elections have to happen. Board and committees need to meet. Vital records need to be processed. Those functions need to continue and they need to be adapted. So I think the skills, especially from the last 2 years, strengthen my ability to do that going forward in this role.
Thank you.
Well, I do have a degree in law, and that allows me to know quickly how to research the law, how to interpret the law, how to implement the law when it comes to the town, specifically the clerk's office. I have managed businesses too. One was my own. One was a contracting business, so I understand payroll, budgeting, that sort of thing. I've worked with the Community Development Department here in Town Hall for the last 8 years. So I understand that collaborative work between the different departments. We had the Health Department, Conservation Department, Planning, Zoning, Building, all working together to make a better customer service model, and I think it worked really well. I have a great respect for the people that work in Town Hall, and from knowing what they do. If ever you have an opportunity to step upstairs and see how fast people have to come up with answers and solve problems, come up with solutions. I've also been the Zoning Board of Appeals secretary for 7 years and understand that side of the desk when it comes to filing legal advertisements, minutes, decisions, and that sort of thing. Now I'm seeing it from the other side, working in the clerk's office, as they come to me looking for stamped in and having those advertised. So I believe that that blend is perfect when it comes to what is required in the clerk's office. I think that it's going to be truly seamless.
Thank you. And Janelle.
The town clerk's position is an elected position, so ultimately, the town clerk represents the entire community, the entire voting body. I have experience with that because I was a member of the Board of Selectmen. It's very important to represent the community and to maintain neutrality. And the 3 years that I did serve, I learned a lot about communication and representation, and I think that's super important as a town clerk. As far as my education is concerned, I was a pre-med major, so I did not major in political science or even business, but my life experience is such that I'm a survivor and I am an entrepreneur. I created businesses. I've employed over 50 people. I've managed. Budgets are second nature to me. Again, when I was Board of Selectmen, I helped with the budgeting process, reviewing it. While I wasn't part of the actual active budgeting, I was certainly part of the review of it, which is part of being a business owner as well, when you have to go through every step. After I was a selectwoman, I decided to go back to school. So in 2018, I went back to 4Cs, and I studied paralegal studies for 2 years. So I too have a background in reading mass general laws. I'm very well versed in municipal government and municipal laws, and I feel that I bring that to the table as well. I've always been in the service industry, and people certainly are my forte.
Thank you. Now, the answer order for this next question is Shayla Delaney, Emily Mitchell, Janelle Brown. What do you see as the major challenges for town clerk? Shayla.
I believe that updating our system, our website in particular, is going to be one of our first focus points. The website is not as interactive as it could be. I think it needs to be more easily accessible to the regular voter. People need to be able to go onto the website and find the information that they need quickly. Where the clerk is also the the records access officer. People, when they're looking for any information at Town Hall, will go through the clerk's office. And I feel that that, at this point, is a little cumbersome. I would like to make that more streamlined, easily available to homeowners as they're looking for information about their properties, builders, real estate agents, and mortgagers often will be in touch about getting information about properties. I'd like to make the dog licensing more available online. I think that we are really loaded with a paper product. Things come across the desk that it could definitely be done with a click online. And I think that the clerk's office probably should not be handling cash the way that it currently does. So I'd like to see more things be available through the new OpenGov format that the town is going to be moving toward, where people can pay online, request online, that sort of thing. So that's what I see as our first challenges.
Thank you. Emily.
So I would focus on 2 areas for major challenges. I think community engagement broadly is a major challenge facing the clerk's role. The clerk touches every facet of our day-to-day life, from birth, death, loss, our pet companions, our elections, the democratic process, and yet people haven't really been adequately engaged to participate. And we see that with low voter turnout or low attendance at meetings or at town meeting on a regular basis. So I think finding ways to reach the community where they're at, getting outside the confines of town hall, going to places like our schools, our community center, our libraries, anywhere else where people are, to inspire that same passion that we all have is an important challenge facing the office. Other things like how we participate and engage during a pandemic, and how we manage things like hybrid meetings or remote meetings, or feeling comfortable coming to in-person meetings, all ties into that engagement component. And then the other area I think is a major challenge and opportunity is looking at changes in voting legislation. So we're looking at a commitment, I think, at the state and federal level to improve access to the democratic process, and that might include making permanent things like early voting, vote by mail, those types of opportunities, but there's a cost that comes with those, both in terms of just the dollar amount and staff time. So it's an important thing to support and manage and facilitate, but looking at how to do that financially and with our staff resources, I think, is a major challenge facing the office.
Thank you. Janelle.
Right now, I think that the town clerk's office in Harwich is operating at a deficit, just of lack of experience. And I think that is the major hindrance and the major challenge that I would face if elected to be town clerk. We unfortunately don't have the two staff members who have been there very long. And Shayla, thank you, you're doing a great job, but you haven't been there very long, right? You're still learning too. So I think that's going to be the biggest hindrance, is how to continue the town clerk's role and let the whole office operate without skipping a beat. I also agree with Emily about community engagement. I think that is something that needs to be stepped up, not necessarily just by the clerk, but maybe coming up with innovative ideas of how the clerk's office can support voter information committee and perhaps other committees, and engage voters of all ages. It does seem that the younger voters don't tend to show up as often as the older voters. So I think coming up with innovative ideas to inspire people to become involved in our community is also going to be a challenge. As far as the website, I do think that overall the website does need an overhaul. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the town clerk's purview, or if we should maybe consider an IT person. So I don't know about that. I'm gonna think about that a little bit more. But that's what I see as my challenge if I were to be in the role of town clerk.
Thank you. We go on to the third question, and the answer order for this question is Janelle, Shayla, and Emily. Are there any conflicts or potential ethical barriers you would face in the work of town clerk? Janelle.
I can't think of any. I'm very well versed in conflict of interest law. In fact, I just reviewed it back in January. I cannot think of anything.
Thank you. Shayla.
Well, every 2 years, the staff of Town Hall, the staff of the town of Harwich, have to do an online session that is an ethics update. So we all have to sign that we do that, and there are all kinds of examples in it about potential problems with ethics. And I think that they do come to us. They come to us when somebody asks for a favor, that we need to be careful about whether or not we're going to give that favor. When somebody asks you to change a date, or those things come to you, and you have to be clear about what the rule is before you make an answer on that. But I think the challenges are daily, and they're throughout town. Town Hall is one example. The clerk's office is a big one, so we have to be very careful to hold the line where that's concerned.
Thank you. And Emily.
I'm not concerned about any potential ethical barriers in pursuing the role. I agree that the conflict of interest law training that we go through is very helpful, and I've found the State Ethics Commission to be very beneficial anytime I've contacted them with questions. So, no, I'm not concerned.
Thank you. The next question, the answer order is Shayla, Janelle, and Emily. Please tell us about the extent of your municipal management experience and how it makes you the best candidate for town clerk. Shayla.
8 years in community development is the quick answer, and that was bouncing back and forth with the other team members, how to come up with a solution to a problem, how to better serve the public, how to manage conflict with staffing. I think that my experience also as the vice president of the Harwich Employees Association has given me a great understanding of, on the other side from management, of what it is like to have to negotiate contracts on a daily, well, yearly basis, rather. I believe that my background also as a business manager, I pulled into working with Town Hall and utilized that as we were coming up with plans, budgets, that sort of thing. So that, I feel that working in Town Hall has given me an incredible, I'm sorry to say leg up, just being here and seeing how this all works.
Thank you. And Janelle.
I think my greatest asset is my experience on the Board of Selectmen. For 3 years, I was actively engaged with the community as well as every single department of our town. So as far as management, while the Board of Selectmen is not involved with day-to-day management of people, I, being a business owner, am a manager. And so I bring that private sector experience of management into the municipal world. As far as the town clerk's position, she has to be beholden to the public, because it's the public who is basically our boss. If we are elected by the public at large. I have experience with that. I was elected as the select woman, and I did represent the public at large. So I think that's my biggest asset and my greatest experience.
Thank you. And Emily?
So as Council on Aging Director, I do have 4 years of direct municipal management experience. The Council on Aging, again, is a diverse operation, so we work with 7 full-time equivalent employees, but it's a combination of full-time, part-time, per diem, benefited, non-benefited, union, non-union employees, and ranging from transportation to nutrition coordination to social services and outreach and public health nursing and program staff. So it's a diverse group of staff that I do manage, and we go through the hiring, onboarding, continuing education requirements, and kind of just looking at job descriptions, staff retention, and overall staffing structures for the department. So that's something that I do on a day-to-day basis. And the Council on Aging is also a very volunteer-heavy department. We work with over 100 volunteers and who do the work of 3.5 full-time equivalent employees, and they do core operations. They're the folks who do health insurance counseling and tax preparation and driving people to their essential medical appointments. So those tasks in themselves, even though they're not paid staff, still require that same management, training, and oversight. So it's quite a depth of experience in my current role.
Thank you. On to the next question, where the answer order is Janelle, then Emily, then Shayla. The town clerk manages local elections and requires expertise in the timing, rules, and regulations of those. Are you familiar with the many details and scheduling needed? And if not, how will you gain that knowledge and expertise? Janelle.
I am not fully experienced with that. However, I am a detail person. Anybody who knows me knows that I am impeccable with my details. I am well read. I am a quick learner. I also hope to have the help of other people to guide me. That's really it. I don't think it's going to be too difficult to read the rules and follow them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily.
So I would likewise need to learn many of the specifics, but I think something I'm confident saying is that elections, the timing is probably longer than we expect. So I know you can't just start planning the week or two before. You probably need a good 3 or 4 months lead time, even for just smaller local elections. And I also know that elections take more people than you might anticipate. It takes your facilities management staff, it takes your community center staff, it takes coordinating your catering. So it's not just getting the ballots and your election workers on election day. So all of that requires extensive coordination. I do think we're lucky that those functions are well defined in the general laws, so it's something that we could research and learn. I'm also confident that there's a very strong professional network of town clerks who would be available to support us throughout the learning process, so I would rely heavily on them.
Thank you. And Shayla.
I have been shielding myself from learning much about our town election process right now as a candidate, but I have been in contact with other clerks, and like I said today, I was up in Wellfleet and went over quite a number of their election process details, and it was really helpful for me. If elected as the town clerk, I will be involved in June. There is a mentorship program, because there really is a very vital connection with the clerks around Massachusetts. And I would get involved in that. It's sort of a boot camp for new clerks. And then in the fall, there's another clerk training program. And in the meantime, again, I will use my legal background to research whatever I need to know. For that, we have a really good group of registrars in town and a lovely group of election volunteers. I will get to know every one of them and find out what I need to know.
Thank you. The next question, the answer order is Emily, then Shayla, and Janelle. Might want to take notes, it's a long one. The Secretary of State's website indicates that each precinct must have at least one accessible voting machine in every polling place, an early voting location so that voters with disabilities can vote privately and independently. In Harwich, accessible voting machines have not been available during early voting. At other times, poll workers have advised voters that the AutoMark accessible voting machine was not available or they could not use it when they requested it. How will you ensure voters with disabilities are able to vote privately and independently? Emily.
Well, I would certainly make it a point to change that practice, again, barring an unforeseen barrier that I'm not aware of right now, but to have the accessible voting machines available for early voting when it's done here at Town Hall. And I imagine that this is an issue of maybe staff and volunteer training to make sure that our election workers are aware that it is available, that it needs to be made available to anyone who requests to use it, and that they're trained on how to use it or assist someone in doing so. So I think just providing that proper training and communication both to folks engaged in the election and to voters would be my approach to changing that.
Thank you. Shayla.
I think I would have, definitely, I would be in charge, but I would have one of my staff people really research as much as possible how to make sure that we have the accessibility to whatever equipment we would need for the accessibility voting, as well as training of staff and volunteers to make sure that those were in place properly and that we had covered all the bases in terms of the state law. We also have now an accessibility department committee in town, and I would work closely with them to find out what they would suggest, how they might offer help. I think that those would be my angles on approaching that.
Thank you. And Janelle.
Well, I don't have anything innovative to say, honestly. I agree with both Emily and Shayla. It's something where, I would need to do some research and find out what the parameters of the situation are and what we have not provided that we should have been providing. And again, work with the committee, work with the voter information committee as well, work with the handicap accessibility committee, and just get the job done. That's really it.
Thank you. Next question, the order is Emily, Janelle, and Shayla. What do you see as the role of the town clerk regarding board and committee agendas and minutes and open meeting law guidelines? Emily.
So I think a couple things, of course. The town clerk's office is, of course, responsible for getting those agendas and minutes posted once they're submitted from the board or committee chair. I think this is an area that is ripe for additional training that I think should be initiated by the clerk or could be initiated by the clerk's office for board and committee chairs or their staff liaisons to make sure that folks know how to properly post an agenda that is compliant with open meeting law so that they are posting something that is sufficiently detailed to notice the public about what will be discussed so that they might attend if they're interested in participating. So again, no one's born knowing how to post an open meeting law compliant agenda or how to type up the appropriate minutes. So making sure people have the tools they need and providing that hands-on support, I think would be beneficial. It would be my intention quickly upon assuming office, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, to attend at least one meeting of every board and committee to get to know their chairs and their members and to be of service to them to help provide that support. So that's what I see as the town clerk's role in those areas.
Thank you. Janelle.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Not at all. What do you see is the role of the town clerk regarding board and committee agendas and minutes and open meeting law guidelines?
Okay. So when I was selectwoman, I sat on the interview committee for committees. And what I think needs to happen is there needs to be a little bit more communication between the Board of Selectmen and the town clerk and the people they appoint. For instance, not every committee member understands the charge of the committee that they are applying for. So I would want to make sure that not only are the people who are assigned to committees well-versed on open meeting law and how to post the meetings and to take minutes and post agendas, but also the charges of the committees. So, like Emily, I would certainly welcome the opportunity to sit in on every meeting that I could, at least at the beginning. I've done that before. It's actually quite fun to attend all of these committee meetings. So I think communication is really the key, and just accessibility to the town clerk.
Thank you. And Shayla?
I actually have acted as secretary for a short period of time with the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, the historic HDHC, as well as the 7 years I worked with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I understand clearly what we need to do. But I think right now there are 6 or 7 different ways it appears to me that people are putting their information out there. So the first thing that I would do when it comes to boards and committees is to offer some sort of training manual for all of the secretaries or the chairs, whoever is the one posting, to let them know exactly how the one way is going to be for posting the proper, first of all, legal agendas, and then minutes are pretty easy in terms of coming across the desk and punching them in, but they need to be digitized, they need to be available to the public, 2 clicks away from finding out what they need to know. I feel already a very clear way of handling that. So I've spoken with the planning board secretary, and she and I have some good ideas about how we would move forward with that.
Thank you. We're going to squeeze one more question in, okay? Can you believe it's already 6:37?
I can't, that was fast.
All right. And the order for this one will be Shayla, Emily, and Janelle. The town clerk manages a budget of approximately $300,000. What is your experience preparing and forecasting capital needs, including procurement, contract administration duties?
Well, not as much as I would like it to be, for sure. And I will be working very early on to make sure that I find out everything that I need to know for that. I have done budgets with my business, and I worked with the budgets in community development, not primarily, but secondarily, for payroll and ordering of, office supplies and that sort of thing. So I definitely would like to get as close as possible to the procurement people who will let me know exactly what I need to do to make that happen. I will make that a real priority. I have experience in the private sector with that, not as much in the public sector, but I have managed employees who have done that. And the people that I hope to get close to me in the clerk's office will be very well versed in that. And then they'll train me as well as I need to be trained.
Thank you. Emily?
So as the COA director, I currently manage a budget over $500,000, probably closer to $600,000, and it's comprised primarily of municipal funds, but also state aid and grant funding. The grant funding in particular always comes with contractual and reporting obligations that I'm sure to comply with to maintain the good standing of those grants. In terms of procurement, I do have procurement experience that's been limited to 30B goods and services procurement. So I've gone through that process with our administrator, finance director, and board of selectmen as we procure those things, get contracts signed, and administer them. So that's something I do on a regular basis, certainly an annual basis. And again, the contract administration is really part and parcel both to those procurement contracts, grant contracts, and overall budgeting. So I would say I have extensive experience within the municipal world with those things.
Thank you. And Janelle?
Well, like Shayla, I do not have experience in the municipal world with budgets, except to oversee them when I was on the Board of Selectmen. My experience is in the private sector. And I have run 3 businesses, and I've budgeted over $1 million at any given time. I am not familiar with procurement process, but again, it's something that I would be willing to learn and need to learn. I didn't do any type of management as a select person. I simply was an overseer of the town administrator. So I learned a lot in my ears, but never as far as actually doing anything.
Thank you. We'll now move on to closing statements. You have up to 2 minutes each. Emily will go first, followed by Shayla and Janelle. Emily.
So thank you again to the Voter Information Committee and to the League of Women Voters. It's been a pleasure speaking with all of you tonight and hearing your questions. Something you've heard me talk about since I began my campaign is the importance of community engagement, and seeing a full room here today is thrilling and encouraging, and I know even more folks are tuned in at home. So thank you to all who have attended. I'd be happy to talk further with you after the formal part of this forum ends, or any time between now and Election Day and after. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to pass along my contact information. So thank you again, and I hope to have your support on May 17th.
Thank you. Shayla.
This has been fantastic. I can't believe that time went by so fast. It was great. If I am elected your town clerk, my hope is to continue along with what I believe has been a really hardworking and excellent model for working in town hall. Working collaboratively with other departments. I would like to be in touch with the Board of Selectmen on a regular basis to find out what they are looking for in terms of, I'd like to get their guidance. I'd like to start right away with learning whatever it is that I need to know that I don't presently know, and that's always something, as you know. I'd like to make the website for the clerk's page of the town website more easily accessible, easier to read, easier to use. I'd like to simplify the records request, make everything from the clerk's office absolutely the best presentation of the town to the people, so that the people have access in an easy manner to all of the records, all of the details that they need to know from committees, boards. I will work together with the boards and committees to make sure that we are in full compliance with the open meeting laws. And again, I am grateful beyond measure that I've had the time that I have been here in Town Hall. There are so many tremendous people that I've gotten to know, and I thank you all tonight. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me.
Thank you. And Janelle.
I am honored to be here and to be considered by the voters in our community for the position of Harwich Town Clerk. I believe that it is a position of representation, and I'm ready for that position. I've done it before. I am a people person. I get along with a lot of different types of people. I like to listen to their stories, and I think that's very important beyond the technical skills involved with being an elected person of an elected position. I'm also honored to say that our former town clerk of 30 years, Anita Doucette, has endorsed me and offered to help me in any transition that I need. I'm a quick learner, and I know that it will be very easily, information will come to me very easily with her help. So thank you, and I look forward to serving you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. You have made this an easy forum to moderate. Absolutely easy. Now, I know a number of you submitted questions that we did not get to because of time constraints. So the candidates are going to share their contact information, and Emily will have access to that. If you want to pose your questions directly to them, I'd encourage you to do that. So from the League of Women Voters, thank you very much for this opportunity, and we will turn it back over to Emily.
Thank you, Mary. You made it really easy for us on Voter Information Committee as well. And it was a delight to hear from all three of you. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the audience. Yes. What a fantastic turnout. I'm so happy to see so many of you here. And I can't wait to see you at town meeting on Monday at 7 p.m. 100 Oak Street, and maybe Tuesday as well. We'll see. I've heard rumors. And then I'll see you all again May the 17th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Be there. Be there and let your voice be heard. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you to Channel 18 for bearing with us through this very busy season leading up to town meeting and doing so much to help Voter Information Committee get the word out to the voters. Thank you.
Yay.